afternoon. So today we are starting our main stress series, and our main stress series goes by the name MOKSHA, basically a shortened form of means-oriented knowledge sharing and assessment. Okay. So this is a session where I'll be giving you an idea about what you can look forward for the next 100 days. Okay. Is there anybody here who expects to clear prelims this time? Okay. Not sure. All right. So it doesn't really matter whether you clear prelims or not. Ultimately, you have to clear this examination, all three stages. Okay. And let me tell you, almost everybody would be studying properly after the month of December, right? December to June, everybody studies. Smartest, the dumbest, everybody is focused on studying. But only the toppers and only the smartest of the lot would study from June to December. Okay, this is where the actual preparation will have to be done. Okay, that is the only time which differentiates someone who cracks his exam and someone who doesn't. So, irrespective of whether you clear prelims or not, there is something to look forward for the next 4 or 5 months. Okay, so since we have a lot of audience connected with us who are also might be appearing for prelims, sorry, appearing for mains this time. So let me first talk to you all about what should be your goal for the next 100 days, assuming that you're going to write your mains this time. Okay, September 15th is, I think, the date of mains. So you have 100 days left, okay, approximately. So what do you plan to do in that course of time? So that's what first I will be addressing. And once I have given a plan for such students, after that, I'll discuss about what to do in case if you are not clearing prelims. Then what should be your goal? What should be your targets? We'll be discussing about that as well. Okay. All right. So we have different audience who have to be preparing for the next few months. One is a set of students who would be clearing the prelims with a comfortable margin or who would be clearing prelims. Next, yes, you don't clear prelims, but you have just missed slightly on the border, right? Maybe 10 marks range. Okay, or because of CSAT, GS was very fine, but CSAT you missed out, correct? So if that is the case, then yes, there is something that I can discuss for you as well. And lastly, if there's a huge gap between the cutoff and your score, okay, you only get 20 marks, 25 marks, whereas the cutoff is 75 to 80 or 80 to 80. In that case, there is a serious introspection to be not then you should be indulging in. Okay, so first I'll be discussing about the strategy for mains preparation for the next 100 days for those who are going to appear for the mains this year. All right. So you see, the next 100 days, again, there are people who already have multiple experience in mains. Then there are students who are going to appear in mains for the first time. Correct. The same strategy will not work for all students. Okay. So if you're already a veteran is someone who has already appeared in multiple mains. If that is the case, your approach should be slightly different. But let's say you're sure. And those are veteran, those who have already had multiple attempts, you would have already taken a test series elsewhere before for your previous attempt. So mostly you may know the nuances of this examination. You don't need to be on the days. Maybe there could be some gaps in your preparation which you may think about filling, or there could be some weak gray area in certain topics in certain papers which alone needs to be strengthened. It depends upon your past analysis of your previous attempt. Only if that is there, we can have a very specific discussion. So for freshers, whereas since you're going to give your first mains, there's a lot of insecurity, there's a lot of self-doubts, there are a lot of conflicting opinions and advices which you'll be getting in the market. So hence, that would be the audience for which my lecture is actually intended to. Okay, so let's get about it. So assuming you are a fresher who has had a successful stint in prelims, if you're going for mains, what can you do for the next 100 days? Strengthening your writing from scratch is not something that is going to work out in the next 100 days. Yeah, please. Okay. You cannot strengthen your writing all from the beginning. Okay, learning the right grammar, learning how to construct arguments. It doesn't make any sense to do it in the next 100 days. But there is something that is within your grasp. There is something that you can also do within the 100 days. Okay, very targeted preparation, very specific preparation can save you a lot of time because you're working under extreme time crunch. One reason is because you also have a big chunk of optional also to master and to cover. So it is beyond the optional, the focus that you give beyond the optional, which is what you will be devoting for your general studies. So in that case, then what can be done? Let's have a look at that. So I would just say that these are all the broad contours of the activities that you will have to do for the upcoming mains. Okay, those are going to appear in this mains. There are just 8 activities that all of you must be focused on. Okay, nothing beyond that. If you can keep this as a routine every single day, then automatically you are on the right track. All right. So what is that? Okay, we'll discuss one by one so that you get a better idea of how to spend the next 100 days. First, analyze previous year question to identify potential direction of questions. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Analyze previous year question to identify potential direction of questions. You cannot learn anything about UPSC other than the previous year questions. Okay, that's the best place where you can actually understand the mind of the question setter. You can understand the nature of questions, pattern of questions. So every serious aspirant, because of innumerable attempts at looking at the question paper of the previous years again and again, automatically the nature of questions, it gets into their mind. So what happens is when they read their textbooks as well, when they read their reading material as well, the search is always based on the pattern of questions that have been asked in the past, right? This is something that nobody can teach you. It's only you yourself have to teach this aspect of learning the way an answer can be molded from the content that you learn so as to create an answer for the upcoming year's questions, right? So when you analyze the previous year's questions, you tend to understand something about UPSC. What is that? First, you will be able to spot that there are some areas, some topics, some themes where every year the question is something new. Questions do not repeat from that area. Okay, and I don't even need to mention what are those areas because the syllabus sheet is very elaborate. Every word in the syllabus sheet indicates a potential area. Okay, a serious aspirant is someone who has in detail prepared at least 15 to 20 page notes for every word in the syllabus sheet. But assuming that you have failed to do such a comprehensive preparation for every part of the syllabus sheet in the last 1 year, considering that you only have the next 100 more days to look forward to, it would not be possible to go and take every word in the syllabus sheet and prepare detailed notes. That is not going to work. That is a year-long effort. And that is a luxury that those who are not making it to the mains this time, you guys have it. Okay, there's no need to be regretful or to repent that you were not able to clear prelims because this is a very, very comfortable, luxurious time that you have the next 6 months to take it slow, build your knowledge, build your own set of notes for every word in the syllabus sheet. But for those who are going to write mains this time, since you cannot indulge in such an activity of making comprehensive notes topic wise, so start making a smart work. The smart work is find out areas. When you analyze previous year question paper, you get an idea that some areas questions keep on repeating. Okay, from closely predictable lines, you will have questions repeating, whereas some areas the questions are completely out of the blue. You will find very, very new questions repeating. Okay. So any idea for the audience here? Do you have any idea what are those areas where you find questions repeating a lot? Where are the questions very new every year? Can you make a guess? Basically, yeah, that is what you have to do. Okay, so for those, so see, these are things which goes without even saying that a sincere aspirant who is intended on cracking this exam will be doing it. So if they are doing it, they are your competitors. So you should also start doing it. Okay, I'll indicate to you. For example, you take the area of elections. Election is a topic in GS paper 2. Okay, the topic that is indicated in your syllabus sheet is salient features of representation of People's Act. You go and take the previous year's question, you will find that every year the question is about a new area in elections. Okay, last year the question was asked about the procedure of filing election petitions and on what grounds it can be filed. Okay, and is there any case laws regarding election petitions? Okay, election petitions is what? It is basically when you want to contest the outcome of an election, you go seek the court. And how do you seek the court? By filing a petition which is called as election petition. And Representation of People's Act has an elaborate provision on all the grounds under which an election petition can be filed. Right? So the UPSC has gone into the depth of it and it asks what are the different grounds on which an election petition can be filed. Right? Name them all. And what has how has the Supreme Court dealt with these areas? Refer case laws. Okay, very, very fresh question. This is not something that comes to you naturally. You read Lakshmikant or NCRT books or anything. Okay, so these are the areas that you'll have to first pick and spot. Okay, what are those areas where some extra reading is necessary? Whereas you take the question like effectiveness of functioning of parliament. Almost every year the question is on predictable lines. One year they ask about how are the parliamentary committees effective in holding the executive accountable. Another year the question will be specifically about one committee, about public accounts committee. Right? So almost on predicted lines. Correct? So first find out what are those topics where there's a scope for UPSC to challenge you with novel new questions year after year. And those are the areas that you must first pick. You must first make elaborate notes on. There is, for those who are going to appear in mains this time, since you have a very short time, you cannot go take the syllabus sheet, read word by word and proceed slowly based on the test schedule that you have every week. I'm sure all of you who are writing mains this year will be subscribing to one or the other test series. Right? When you subscribe to test series, you have a lot of syllabus to be completed within 5 days, 5 or 6 days. Because Sunday is the date of test and Monday to Friday is when you will keep preparing intensively. Right? So within 5-6 days, you have optional preparation as well. In addition to that, you will have GS syllabus to be completed as well. So please don't do the mistake of taking Lakshmikant book and starting reading it from scratch, again reading from first chapter to the last chapter. That is of no use. And in fact, all those areas which you are familiar with, please don't even read them. It doesn't make any sense to go and read about the committees of parliament. Okay. And what is there in Lakshmikant about parliamentary privileges will never be even asked in the examination. Because examination, the top syllabus sheet indicates issues with respect to parliamentary privileges. When what is given in Lakshmikant is just what are parliamentary privileges, to who is it provided. Zero use in mains. Right? So that is why do not take any standard books and start reading and revising them from cover to cover. That is a waste of time. But instead do this targeted preparation by analyzing the question paper first. Analyze which are the areas where you are completely blank, where there is a potential for UPSC to throw a surprise at you, a random surprising question at you. Election is one such area. This year, this was a question. I think last year, 2021, there was not a single question from election. 2020, there was a question on election. That question was regarding what is the procedure for disqualification of members. Okay. So, again, that was different. The year before that was about simultaneous elections. The year before that, it was funding in elections. The areas that are asked varies from year to year. Of course, the topic would be about election. You cannot say, sir, everything is from elections only. Because the sheet indicates election as the topic. But what in elections keeps on varying. So it is only for those kind of areas, without specific knowledge, you will not be even able to touch the answer. Without a case law for that question, since UPSC is asking refer case laws, where unless you have prepared it prior, you cannot even write anything on that. Okay, or unless you have read some exposure, even if you have read a document on election petition for 10 minutes, you could have slightly had a faintest idea of what are the grounds on which an election petition can be filed. My point is, instead of spending half an hour or 1 or 2-3 hours revise entire parliament chapter, instead of spending that 2-3 hours, go to this area of elections. Which areas are yet to be explored? Take those areas. Even a superficial reading of that will give you points with which you can at least start forward with the answer, rather than leaving the answer completely blank. Right? Like that, first identify such areas. Elections is comparison. Comparison of constitution is also another topic where the questions are new year after year. Last year, I think that the question of comparing India constitution with other constitution was regarding election of president. How is the system of election of president of India different from that of president of France? Never before in the past such a question was asked. But the year before that, comparison was with respect to speaker. How is the position of speaker different in India as well as in UK? Correct. So who knows? Next year the question could be about the nature of federalism as how it is practiced in India as well as in USA. Correct. So any new area, there are just so many areas of comparisons which can be drawn. Correct. So this is what I'm trying to say. These are, and this is again a topic that you don't find in Lakshmikant. You have to go beyond your NCRTs and Lakshmikant. Only reading good internet documents can be helpful. Or otherwise, you may ask me a question, sir, then if there are no ready-made sources, then how do I even get exposed to these kind of areas? That is why you have to take a lot of tests. Lot of tests in the sense, I'm not saying that you should write every question that you face in challenging in test series. You only subscribe to one test series, whatever it is. Make sure you write one full test every week. But every day also you should keep writing questions. It may not be a full question paper every day. I don't even want you to write a full answer every day, but at least your eyes should fall upon all the challenging questions that are there in the market. Correct? Take the question bank of every academy's question papers. Okay, look at all the challenging questions. If you feel that it's really challenging, then start making an attempt to write. But if it is not so challenging, just think mentally about the answer. Think about what points probably you can generate for this question. Okay, assuming that this would be the, okay, if you get some 5-6 points, be happy. Oh yeah, you have something to write, provided your writing skill is already good. Okay, maybe have a daily practice of writing answers for 2 questions, not more than that. Simply wasting entire day writing from morning till evening will leave you no time for fresh thoughts to come in by studying anything. Okay, so students also experience this answer writing fatigue in this preparation. Because somebody has done a lot of writing, it doesn't mean that that is a single formula that is applicable for every aspirant. Every aspirant is different. Okay. So there are aspirants who would not even have written a full-length test series also and still have got wonderful marks in the mains. Why? Because their writing proficiency is already good. They have already understood mains completely. And maybe they didn't have to write in this gap between prelims. This is especially true with those who are already in service. Okay. Even when I got into IRS first, when my second attempt after that, I did not write a single answer on the gap between prelims and mains. Why? Because I already knew and I was already certified by UPSC that I have accepted your answers. So I never felt, but instead I took all the question papers, mentally thought about, this is ours, I'll write this. If this is ours, I'll write this. This is what I thought about, right? So there is no single formula that everybody should do intensive answer writing again and again. Don't fatigue yourself into doing that. But let new thoughts, new light come in. And that comes in with questions. Good questions. I'm sure challenging questions, if you were to face, you could have predicted this question on comparison between Indian president selection. Maybe in the course of your preparation, if you're smart enough, if you're looking at various challenging areas, you definitely would have come across the difference in the election methodology of Indian and US president. Correct? If you were more curious, and even, who knows, even the answer key of the test, when you go through it, that would also give additional points about elections of other presidents. There could have been some point about the French president, which you could have just ingested inside you. That will come to your help in facing these kind of tricky questions. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? What I'm trying to say is, be very sharp, be very focused, specific in your preparation. Don't do a random preparation for this mains examination. For prelims, see, prelims is all about the span of knowledge. More and more areas you touch upon, you get a higher chance of cracking prelims. Mains is not like that, because so many areas are already familiar to you, because you have, that's why you have cleared prelims. Okay, so it's not about your familiarity with so many areas, but with select areas, limited areas, have you become really competent enough or not? So that in such area, if it is asked, your answer is it able to fetch you half mark or 1 mark more than other aspects, right? The goal of this entire preparation is to score better than others. It's entirely competitive, right? So make sure that every area, so from the analysis of previous year's question, whichever you find areas where UPSC can throw a surprise at you, those areas should not be unfamiliar to you on the day of examination. You cannot clear this examination by leaving any question unattempted. Again, this is a generalizing statement. Okay, one question maybe you can leave, but largely, at least the toppers papers year after year, when you see, you will find that there are people who would be able to manage to complete the entire answer sheet. They would leave no answers, questions unattempted, right? And how does that confidence come? And I know people who even leave at least 2-3 questions every year. Okay, but this is a difference. This is a huge difference between those who crack and make it to the top ranks and those who end up not cracking this examination. Okay, look at this non-seriousness. Sir, I did not even know what it is. Okay, then what were you doing for in the name of your preparation? Correct? If you do not even know what area this topic is, then seriously, what were you doing in the preparation? You did not understand the preparation properly. You thought again it is all about reading all the areas, which is not the case, right? That's why I say, watch out for all these newer areas. Okay, the only way you can get exposed is by facing a lot of questions, right? That is what you'll have to do. Let's say if this is a week, first week, this Sunday you have a test of history. Okay, the first paper, GS paper 1 is your test schedule. If that is the case, when you keep on studying every day, okay, maybe 2-3 hours once, 3 hours once, 4 hours once, just take, there are just so many free resources available on the internet. Okay, some market materials of compilations of various test series questions. Let's say you read The Rise of Leftist Movement in Indian National Struggle. Okay, after you have read it, just look at the question papers of academies of GS paper 1, see if there is any question from this area. If you find any question, immediately think of mentally generating an answer for that question. If you would want to be even more elaborate in your preparation, do not only confine to thinking alone, but rather take a piece of paper, just note down the hints. Don't elaborate an entire answer with introduction, body, writing it. You can do that also. Okay, maybe you can do 2-3 questions per day, full answer writing. But beyond that, you can even get yourself exposed to 10 to 15 questions, 20 questions also. But you don't have to write answers for all the 20 questions. 2 questions, 3 questions, maybe you write an answer. It takes you hardly 15 to 20 minutes. Beyond that, whatever questions you face, just think of points. If you want, maybe maybe in 3-4 lines, just make a hint. First this point, second this point, third this point. Based on this, I'll write an introduction like this. Think, move on, think, move on. Correct? So this is something that you can actually do. Okay. So for all these kind of questions, first figure out what is the reading material from where maximum coverage can be got. Okay. So go for the right reading material. Instead of spending an entire day reading the election chapter in Lakshmikant, going for NCRT's basic books on elections and reading them completely. There are 2 books on elections, no? NCRT's democratic politics, right? Reading all that, reading the Lakshmikant chapter on political parties, on elections, Election Commission of India, and then reading 12th standard NCRT election. In elections, there's a separate chapter on 12th standard NCRT. Why are you wasting all this time? None of this is going to be asked in your exam. But instead, what you should be doing is, you should be very fastly giving a superficial reading of proposed electoral reforms document of Election Commission of India, or otherwise you go for Law Commission's report on electoral reforms. Correct? Yes, you may end up spending an entire day reading that document, but understand when you read, and let me tell you, all the different questions in elections that are asked year after year, they are only asked from within the document. You cannot show a single question asked in UPSC about elections outside of this document. I can give that to you in writing. I have analyzed all the questions. So basically, this is the parent document. It means that if only you can read this document and make yourself thorough of that, you are now in a position to face any kind of questions that can probably be asked. I don't think any other academy material or market material will give you better content to prepare in advance of the question that would be asked this year, other than this document. So reading this proposed electoral reforms, it's a 200-page document. When you read it fast, you can finish it probably within 10 hours, 12 hours. Okay, whereas when you read all the NCRT's election chapter, all that, it may take you 3 to 4 hours. But that 3 to 4 hours that you spend reading from books is of zero use. Whereas this 10 hours that you're going to spend reading this will definitely be useful in at least attending one answer in your next main, and that too from an unpredictable area. Imagine when 80% of the competitors do not even know how to start an answer for this question. Whereas 20% of the competition alone knows, yes, some relevant idea to write. You may not be writing the best of the answer for this question, but you are writing something where nobody else is able to write anything. That's the secret of success for this examination. Correct? So figure out those areas from where the newest topics, UPSC can always improvise in exploring newer and newer areas. Figure out them first, make a list of them. First, strengthen yourself when building your competence and knowledge in all those areas first. Okay, this should be the focus of those who are going to write your mains this time. Only focus on those areas for every week's test. After you have completed those areas, then maybe you can move on to all the remaining areas and cover from your basic books, all your material that you have been reading for a long time. You use all that, but do not leave these areas unfocused. That's point number. Okay, so the focus, see, and do you guys know that people use a lot of data collection? They use statistics, graphs, diagrams here and there, right? They do it as a part of their practice. You see a lot of coaching centers, test series, papers, you'll find all those graphics and animations and all that, correct? That is all fine, but that is not at all possible for these kind of questions. Here, even generating one single idea itself is difficult in the exam. Then where is the potential of drawing diagrams and all that? Not going to work. But again, there are areas where you can use all those skills of yours. Okay, but not for these. Okay, so here you cannot focus on data collection and all those things. But there are areas which tend to repeat again and again. When it's so predictable, it means that everybody would have also prepared well. If everybody has prepared well, they're all going to write some decent answers. Then why would the examiner give you more marks? Only if you can bring in some innovation other than others, other than those who have also written equally good answer for those questions. Okay, those are the areas which I call as the fewer areas. Fewer areas means there isn't much area for UPSC to go beyond than certain areas, ideas. For example, that questions on effectiveness of parliament. One year they may ask about how are committees functioning. Other year they may ask about disruptions in parliament and is this affecting the functioning of parliament, right? Third year they may ask you about what are the changes that have been recently witnessed in the parliament in terms of its functioning in holding the executive accountable. Almost all the answers can be written at the same points. Is it or not? Yes. For those kind of areas where questions are almost similar, now you make sure that you bring in some data in the answers which others may not be able to bring in. Or at least if others are bringing in, you should also ensure that you also bring in data. You should not be found to be lacking where others are able to present some data and adding credibility to their points. Okay, so instead of simply saying that there is a lot of disruptions happening in Lok Sabha, why don't you talk about the number of days for which Lok Sabha was functional in the last 1 year? Or why don't you make a comparison that Lok Sabha in the last decade, its productivity has come down in terms of number of bills legislated, in terms of number of questions asked. If you have all those data sets, maybe you can use that to give a credibility in the mind of the examiner that you're simply not saying just for the sake of saying that parliament's productivity has reduced. You have supporting data to talk about, correct? So that is how you can plan for those areas where not much exploration is done by UPSC in terms of diversity of questions. For those kind of areas, you can plan accordingly, add more value to your answers. Okay, I would say that this can be a second priority, because even without data and value additions, you would still be able to get 5 marks out of 15 marks or 6 or 7 marks. If only you had data, you can get half 1 mark more. But if you start focusing on this half mark, 1 mark, and if you neglect this area, you end up getting a 0 mark in these kind of areas. Correct? So that is why this is first focus. Okay, where the ideas are totally unrelated to your prelims. For example, governance is one area that you do not cover in terms of your prelims preparation. Correct? Policy implementation, policy development, design, challenges in implementation. We do not concern with that topic in prelims. So completely unfamiliar. That is why this is an area where the question is also quite difficult. I'll show you a question asked. You see, policy contradictions among various competing sectors and stakeholders have resulted in inadequate protection and prevention of degradation to environment. Comment with illustrations. Okay, quite challenging question that you. Okay, for these kind of questions, you need to have something to write. Something to write will give you 3 marks. Otherwise, most probably you leave it unattempted, 0 marks. So value additions that you will have focus to for these kind of areas. For example, you look at previous year's questions, Naxalism, those security related topics and all, almost questions are very predictable, they are very routine. Okay, they'll only ask you about what are the factors that led to the emergence of Naxalism, or what are the factors that is leading to the decline of Naxalism, right? Quite bounded. Questions cannot be beyond certain areas. Okay, so I know. So Naxalism, terrorism, organized crime, These are all areas where the questions are very predictable, very banal, very routine, and you should not even spend more than half a day reading for these topics. Okay, because some way or the other, because of your last 1-2 years of preparation, from the editorials, from the compilations, you definitely will be having something to write. So you don't have to be scared that, oh my God, what if I leave this question completely unattempted? And not only that, your test series will almost predict the questions that will come in your exams spot on. Okay, I'll just show you the proof for that. This is actually our last year's 2022 question paper. You'll find directly 60 out of 60 from GS1, you have 20 questions, GS2 20, GS3 20, 60 questions totally. Out of 60 questions, 21 you can associate directly with our test series. These are our test series. So these are UPSC questions. These are our test series questions. See the question. Discuss the role of National Commission for Backward Class in the wake of its transformation from a statutory body to a constitutional body. And look at our question. Has the constitutional status of NCBC helped improve the working of commission and outcomes? Correct? It's quite simple. Mains, the beauty of mains is that it's very predictable, unlike prelims. It's only in prelims you have to hunt for random areas, face random tests and all that. Whereas prelims become so much predictable. In fact, when you go to the next phase, personality test, it's so easily predictable. You actually know what are the questions that are going to be asked. You can plan in advance and prepare well. Okay, so that is for a different discussion. Like that, look at the question on Naxalism. Okay, maybe last year there was no question on Naxalism. Or you look at the question on organized crime. Discuss the type of organized crime. Describe the linkages between terrorist and organized crime that exist at national and international level. This is UPSC question. Look at our question. If organized crime and terrorism go hand in hand, the mechanism to counter the two must also go hand in hand. Right? We are actually able to predict it. But because it doesn't take great skill as such. The reason is simply UPSC cannot explore to the depths of it. Because these are all things that are so secretive in nature. Right? Government deals it in very secretive ways. Nobody knows how exactly things are all dealt by agencies. Okay, only we have a superficial, a macro view on things. And UPSC also asks only macro view. Right? So what I'm trying to point out is, there are all these kind of areas, for example, in agriculture, okay, and disaster management. There are many questions where, and even last year from elections, there were 2 questions. Okay, one I have already told you, that is regarding election petitions. The other question was regarding model code of conduct. This was UPSC question last year, 2022 mains. And this is another question of us. Do you think model code of conduct needs statutory recognition? 2022 test 14, 7th question. Right? So my point is, there are these areas where you don't have to spend too much time preparing and wasting your time. Okay, that time should be better spent on strengthening your simplest knowledge of unfamiliar areas. Okay, instead of spending time extensively for these areas, repeating and revising the same stuff, focus on this. These simply from the test series questions itself, you can strengthen. Face the test question, then you learn from the answer key. I'm sure even that will be sufficient for you to write impressive answers in your. Correct? So first know where to allocate your time. That matters more for the next 100 days. Right? So yeah, so it is from these areas. So the first, when I started my speech, I told you there is a different strategy that a fresher must have, the different strategy a veteran must have, right? So a veteran, multiple attempts in previous mains. So they know this entire routine of the next 100 days. And who knows, they may themselves have prepared for these kind of topics as well, these new areas and all that before. Okay, if that is the case, you guys can go for the next level of value addition. Whereas a fresher will simply talk about Naxalism has been on decline in the recent days. Okay, since a veteran already has a lot of time in his hand, you can make sure some value addition happens. You can talk about how many districts is it present today, how many districts was it present 10 years back. So the decline, if you can bring it in terms of statistics. So that value addition, a veteran can sit and do in his luxury. Whereas it doesn't mean that the freshers have to be immediately concerned. Oh my God, so does it mean that I'm going to lose out on the veterans in these kind of questions? Will I not be able to create a good impression as how he is going to create? No, not necessarily, because that is why our answer keys are. Even when you read the answer keys, you will have statistics there. Correct? So instead of you going and doing original research and collecting all that, just read the answer keys, prepare yourself for these ideas and extract 1 or 2 statistics from that, keep it handy. If at all there is a scope to use those statistics in the examination, make use of. Correct? So this is how you should prioritize. First priority, areas that are completely unconnected with prelims, areas where you yourself know from the previous year's questions, whichever question areas you find, you cannot even touch the question. Okay, that is the area that you should first focus on. After doing all that, if time still remains, focus on areas which you are already familiar with. If not, you don't even have to focus on these areas that you're already familiar with. Just leave it. Come to the exam hall, mock test, write a test, learn from the test. Keep moving on to the next week's agenda. Don't even go and feel that, oh, I do not know how to write about this Naxalism answer in my test. So I think I should spend some 2 days studying about Naxalism from 2 different books. You're wasting your time. You don't have the time right now. Okay, just keep moving on. There will be a time one day after 2-3 weeks. Once again, when this test repeats, at that time, maybe you can revise. You better start focusing on the gray areas of the upcoming weeks. Okay. Right. So this is what I said. Find out areas where UPSC has given a hint for you to pick cues from for your use this year. For example, it is only in the last 2 years I'm able to find in polity for UPSC is focusing explicitly on bring out case laws, refer case laws. Okay, this gives us an indication of the upcoming questions in the next means. Okay, so last year there was a question, very first question in GS paper 2 was this. The greatest success of judicial activism was the constitutionalization of environmental issues. Explained with case laws. Okay, so first you should know the principles underlying this question. You know, judicial activism has expanded the scope of Article 21. You can write that as an introduction. Then you can say that Article 21 today also comes to include the right to clean environment. Okay, but some cases have what brought this idea of right to clean environment as a part of Article 21. What are those cases? Unless you have prepared specifically on that, nobody could have answered this particular question. Correct? So pick and choose case laws. Okay, UPSC has already asked for judicial activism. 2 years they have been asking case laws. 1 year they have explored environmental issues. Another year it was a general question. So let me now go and read judicial activism related case laws for other areas. Right to education is now today a part of Article 21. Right to livelihood is a part of Article 21. Why not equip yourself with the relevant case laws on every area now? UPSC has indicated to you that this is how I am going to ask question. Correct? So start preparing case laws for judicial activism in every different area. Correct? This is something that is within your reach. You can do it. So that, see, I'll tell you, only when you face your mains examination, you will feel that just having something to write will give you a confidence that, which itself will be able to give you a very nice answer. Whereas when you start feeling that I don't know anything, your confidence level will come down so badly that even for the other answers, that lack of confidence will be reflected in the poor outcomes. Okay, so your preparation now, what you're doing is to ensure your confidence remains high throughout the entire 3 hours of your mains. Okay, so this comes with a sense of familiarity when you encounter an exam. Oh, this, yeah, I have 1 point of it. That 1 point is sufficient to write a story and expand it. Okay. So yes, case laws from often repeated areas, that is something that you can do. When you see toppers, no, they'll always sprinkle data here and there. It adds a lot of credibility to their answers. For example, there was a question asked. Explore and evaluate the impact of work from home on family relationships. Okay. Work from home, how has it impacted family relationships? There was a lot of articles which are discussing that the prevalence of domestic violence has actually increased in India after this COVID lockdown and all. Okay, some national family health survey has captured the data. Okay, I don't know the exact data, but what toppers will do is they will collect those data, keep it. Okay, they will write it maybe in the introduction. Work from home has increased the level of violence faced by women in their domestic lives, as indicated by NFHS survey. Okay, the number of women who face domestic violence has increased last year from 21 to 26%, something like that. I don't know the exact data, but what I'm just hinting is, when I tell you daily practice answer writing, you have to experiment all these things as a part of your answer writing. Try bringing in those data. Okay, find out which is the best place to fit in the data. Is it in the introduction, or is it in the conclusion, or is it as a standalone point somewhere in the middle of the body of the answer? Correct? See, it's an art. Okay, it's not a definite black or white science that I can tell you, use it only in introduction. No, it depends upon the flow of your answer. Okay, if the flow is good and towards the end you are writing about the problem of violence faced by women in their marital life, then conclusion would be an apt area where you can actually indicate this percentage of women who face domestic violence. Correct? So learn where and which part of the answer should the data that you gather, where it should be embedded in the answer. Okay, so it's a multiple things which are done at once when you write an answer. When you write an answer, one, you are getting yourself used to generating ideas. Second, you are used to creatively putting in all these kind of value additions, right? And you're perfecting which area should all these value additions be brought in. Okay. Some people draw a map for an entire full page, almost 3/4 of a page, and then they start an answer, which I don't appreciate it. Or a simple small map on the side of the answer, which illustrates the most important things, whereas the entire answer page also should contain the most important points. Correct? So that also comes out of practice. When you yourself draw a map and when you feel, as an examiner, when I see that, I feel, so the person doesn't have ideas. That is why they have drawn up such a large map. Okay, it creates a negative impression, right? So all that comes with experimentation. And most important of all that, you need to have a very good stamina as well as a speed of writing. Okay, every page should be completed within 3.5 minutes of writing. 3.5 minutes is what you have for every page, because you have to write for 50 pages of content. 50 into 3.5 is 180 minutes. So in 3.5 minutes, as soon as you see a question, within 10-15 seconds, you should brainstorm. And when you brainstorm, all those, how I used to do was, when the answer sheet is there, as soon as I see the question, I look at the question and immediately take a pencil, and outside the margin where you're not supposed to write, I used to mark down the points that are there in my mind. Okay, why? Why do I mark them down? Immediately jot them down. I told you, no, write hints. Okay, keep writing hints. The same hints I'll write it in the margin area where I'm not supposed to write anything. The reason why I write that is because once I start working around with the answer, once my mind starts becoming busy with sentence construction, my mind starts forgetting the good points that I had initially brainstormed. Correct? It's a curse to forget the idea that you have, because suddenly no matter how hard you try, you will not be able to get those ideas. That is why I initially write it. Writing it will take 5 seconds, 10 seconds maximum, right? I write it. Finally, when the time is all over, when the bell is just about to ring, I'll take an eraser and erase all the pencil content that I have written. You should not leave anything outside the margin area. Okay, so writing hints first and then going about it also serves another purpose. What purpose? When you wrote the hints, the first point actually that you have generated could be a very insignificant point compared to the 5th point that you had generated. Whereas without writing a hint, if I would have started writing an answer myself directly, I would have actually written the first point in the first part of the answer. But do you think that's the right way of writing? The most significant, impactful ones are the ones which I should be writing in the front end of the answer. Correct? So writing a hint also helps me reprioritize the order of the answers which I had thought about in my mind. Correct? So that is also something that you can practice and perfect, keep writing answers on a daily basis. An impactful answer, easy to read, you should not tire him out. You should not stress him. What is this person trying to explain? Okay, handwriting should be very neat and very clear, very proper grammar. Okay, grammatical sense gives an advantage in this examination. Okay, and order, as I say, the most important of the point should be first, less important as it goes down. Fine. Okay, so when you write, perfect all these things. It doesn't come with one answer that first answer will take you 6 or 7 minutes to write, where answers are all jumbled, where you will strike out on a lot of places and then write an answer. Don't worry, that's just the beginning. The day before you go to your mains, you should come to such a step where as soon as you see a question, the thought must be effortless. Effortlessly, you should just come, you should start writing the 5 points. So put your pencil down, take your pen, and from your hints, create an introduction now. You cannot first think of an introduction and then you cannot go for a body points. First, you have to think about the body content. Based on the points you have generated, you should creatively make an introduction and put it. Right? Now write an introduction, a 3-sentence introduction, not more than that. If you write more, it doesn't give a distinguishing feeling as an introduction. It just feels connected as a part of the body of the answer. Right? So write a 3-sentence introduction. It could even be 2-sentence introduction, 2 or 3, not more than that. 2-3 sentences. Then put a heading, start writing the hints that you have, elaborate on it, arrive at a conclusion. In the middle of it, if at all it's from an area where you already have a data set that you have gathered, put that data somewhere. Okay. And never be under the obsession that every answer should have a data or validation or chart or flow chart, tree diagram. Okay. In some answer writing manuals that you find in the market. Okay. I don't want to take names, but those manuals, when you go through them, they should give a model answer. A beautiful handwritten answer is given as a model answer. Okay. It's about stupa architecture. Okay. Stupa architecture, pillar architecture. There's a representation. It's very easy to sit after the exam is all over, sit in a comfortable AC room, have Google, write a beautiful answer perfectly, put this diagram and all that. Okay, but the kind of question that is asked in the real UPSC exam is something different. What is the difference? They ask you, what is the significance of lion and bull figurines in Indian mythology? Is it possible for you to draw a bull, lion, and all that? So don't be tempted that somebody's model answers had a diagram, so my answer should also have a diagram. You can score extremely high scores without even a single diagram. Okay. And do you even think if the question is from the resolution of contentious issues, I'll show you the question. Okay, you will understand, is there any way, first of all, look at this question. This is 2020 or 19, I'm not sure which year it is exactly, but that was a question asked in polity. Okay. Understanding the question itself is a challenge, right? There is no way value additions will happen. Even toppers papers that are distributed on the internet, you will find a lot of them doing diagrams and all. That is all possible in the limited nature of questions that you find in academic test series, but not in the real UPSC. Even those toppers would be failing in creative all representations in the real UPSC. What I mean is not for all questions it is possible, but for some questions, of course, it is possible. Okay, so don't, and see, that is a minimal of your worry. That is not the maximum worry that you should have. Your maximum worry is, if this is a question asked, how will I write a 1.5 page answer for this? If you cannot even understand this question, then how do you even take your answer forward? That should be the greatest of your worry, right? This is where, as I first told you, understand this is how questions are asked, prepare accordingly. Okay. So if only you have, what is this question basically? It says, whenever state and center have had make laws on what matters, those matters have gone to Supreme Court. And Supreme Court, by giving judgments in those cases, it has come up with these principles, two principles. One is principle of federal supremacy and the other one is principle of harmonious construction. It's how you have to interpret the question. Okay, I'm sure for these kind of questions, 80% of the crowd will not be able to even understand what the question is. They will simply write Indian federalism is different from US federalism. That is what they will write, something irrelevant. Only 20% will at least understand what this question is. Maybe minuscule 5% of the entire mains aspirants who are already proved themselves by clearing prelims, only they will have that specific case. It is possible to be within that 5%. If not within the 5%, then at least be in the top 20%, not be in the 80%. That's the point. Okay, if to be in the top 5%, where you also have the case laws for the state of West Bengal versus Union of India, that is one case you can write. Okay, and if at all you have any other cases, the principle of federal supremacy. Okay, it means wherever there is a conflict, union government's view should prevail. That is what is the meaning of principle of federal supremacy. Federalist center's wish should prevail. That is how you can iron out the differences that happens in a federal polity. And that is how the foreign jurisdictions which have federal systems have all coped up with disputes regarding federal disputes. Okay, so this requires serious reading. That is what I'm trying to say. Okay, this should be the first priority. And what is the source for that? I don't think any market material or academic material on the market would have given you the content for this until this question was asked. After this question was asked, now they can all bring material and see, my material has the answer for this. Anybody can do that. But did you have that before this question was asked? That is the point. That is why aspirants have to be self-reliant. You have to be independent in preparing yourself for these kind of areas. Okay, it is possible. It is so easy. You may think that, oh my God, if these kind of questions are asked, then how on earth will I even prepare? You can, as I told you, take the syllabus sheet, unfamiliar areas you take, go to this book called as MP Jain's Constitutional Law. If only you read MP Jain's Constitutional Law, it's a 2000-page book, you cannot read the entire book. But selective reading, only for judicial activism. Judicial activism is after all 10 to 15 pages in that book. Why are you confining yourself to Lakshmikant? You are already done with Lakshmikant for your prelims. Now move one step forward. Go to MP Jain's constitutional law, read that 15-page alone. If anybody would have read that MP Jain's constitutional law, that 15 pages of judicial activism, you would have exactly got the answer for last year's first question in GS paper 2, constitutionalization of environmental issues. Polluter pays principle, precautionary principle, MC Mehta case, Taj Trapezium case, Vellore Citizens Forum case, all those case laws are also given in the book itself. I would say that that is a source. Okay, so start doing it. Okay, and trust me, smart aspirants are there around you who would be doing it already. I don't know whether they would have done it from MP Jain or by reading web articles or by reading some law blogs or by reading some research works on judicial activism, but some way or the other they would have acquired that knowledge. They are having it in their hands. So now you also start doing it. Clear?
How can I that I have to kind of specifically that 2,000 pages and those specific?
Because you should think, I don't have the time for 2,000 pages, right?
How should I identify it?
Identify this particular book, you mean?
Yeah, but for particular.
Talk to faculties. Talk to faculties, they will help you. Which, from where? Ask them. So where is this question asked? So to help me read such kind of material, that is the work of the faculty. Ask them, we'll clarify it for you. So if you ask the same, see, because I can only talk about polity and history because I'm familiar with that. I cannot simply talk about geography, not knowing from which book it is exactly taken, or one good book where everything can be managed. I have no idea. But for polity, I can say that this is the book. Okay. Even with respect to other topics also, if you see, all good content are there in this book. I am also not someone who would actually say that go and read new books. That is not how I clear this exam. I cleared by reading limited books, but good books. That is the point. Okay. But most of my learning was done on good PDF material on the internet. Okay, either you should know the skill, you should know how to search for that good PDF, or otherwise you go for this particular book and do selective reading. Okay, but let me tell you, my entire polity preparation was done from the website called Loctopus. I don't know whether you know of that or not. LAWCTOPUS. Okay, it's actually a web platform maintained by law college students. Okay, there are some good articles which I was able to take from that. And pardoning power of the president. Do you think Lakshmikant has enough content? It may have two case laws, Maruram's case, Kehar Singh's case. Okay, but there are so many other dimensions of pardoning power of the president as well, for which some more reading from a PDF document. There are good documents, some 10 pages PDF document on the internet, from where you can get all the case laws regarding pardoning power of the president. Why? This could be very relevant in this year's mains. Rajiv Gandhi assassins, their pardon issues happened last year. So it could be a potential area. If you know that this is a potential area, then why leave any stone unturned? Correct? Prepare everything. Almost, why do you have to limit yourself only to Maruram's case and Kehar Singh's case, which is there in Lakshmikant? Lakshmikant is not the standard book prescribed by UPSC, right? It is one such convenient book which market has accepted, right? It has only two case laws, but there are other materials. MP Jain will have so many case laws on pardoning for the president. Like that, use MP Jain for 10 areas, 10, 15 topics hardly. So of all the 2,000 pages, you would have to only read around 200 pages maximum, not more than that. Do you think that's a very difficult task? It is not. But reading the 200 pages will give you a short answer for 3 or 4 questions where nobody will be able to even touch, whereas you will be able to write something very decent. Okay, that gives you a 15-mark edge in your 10 to 15-mark edge from 4 or 3 or 4 answers. This matters a lot. The 10-mark edge per paper is like the same focus and attention will come in your mind for every paper. 10, 10, 10, 10, 40 marks across GS papers, 400, 500 ranks in the rank list. Okay, it's a big factor, right? So you're right. It's not so easy to figure out which all documents to read. So it is expected that the coaching centers would have done this work and they can give you the right reading material. But you cannot simply put your destiny and future in the hands of another. Yeah, yes. So you read it. I'm not saying you don't read the coaching material. You read it. But always be cautious. Is this having anything beyond last year's questions or not? If it has something beyond, it is good. If it is only based on last year's questions, only the entire material has been prepared, I would say it's actually useless. Because why? The same area will not repeat next year. That is just a start for you. But then go beyond that. That is the point. Okay. Yeah. So that's all. So, and yeah, Lot of current affairs based questions are so predictable. For example, this year, Turkey, Syria earthquake has happened, right? So definitely in mains, there will be a question on plate tectonics, faulting, okay, something related to geomorphology with respect to plate tectonics, there will be a question. Okay, so it is very simple, no? Easy to relate. Okay, so the key issue is going on. There will definitely be a question on federalism, on the status of union territory, correct? Revolving that. Like that, you find linkages between the recent current affairs that has been happening and prepare content for that. That will be taken care of test series. We in the coaching, we will be giving you tests based on current affairs questions. Again, after, so, but you should also remember that, for example, I'll tell you, last year, one of the Indian neighbor had become financially bankrupt, correct? What is that country? Sri Lanka. Everybody, every coaching center would have predicted on the similar lines. UPSC will ask, and that is why India is an age-old friend of Sri Lanka. Discuss India's role in recent crisis in Sri Lanka in the light of preceding statement. This was a predictable question. Aspirants also would have predicted it. We also had predicted India will always be guided by the best interest of the people of Sri Lanka and not just by the government. Evaluate India's position regarding the Sri Lankan crisis. Correct? So it means that aspirants, coaching, everybody will know that this is predictable. So then what is the differentiating factor that you have? That is where you can actually add more points. If you can collect unique data for your own purpose, that is good. So capitalize on these kind of areas, build your data set. Practice, pre-plan the kind of value addition you would be doing in the real examination. You cannot go to the exam hall and then think, after you start writing, you cannot think, what if I draw a tree diagram? No. Why don't you do it in the next 3 months before you go to the exam hall? You think, if at all a question is asked about Sri Lanka, so probably I'll talk about the problems. So in terms of people contact, what all aspect I can bring under. In terms of historical ties, what all I can bring under. Why don't you practice drawing a diagram here itself, so that on the exam hall, you don't have to spend time. It will definitely cut down the time that you have to invest then there by half. Correct? So this is the utility of anticipating current affairs based areas, pre-planning your value additions that you intend to do in the real means. Okay, it will be a great force multiplier for you on the day of the examination. Okay, you will find that effortlessly you will be able to draw all these valuations. When you sit too much and when you start forcing yourself to value add to your answers, will not work there. It will consume time which otherwise should have been used for some other answer. Okay, so it's a, what do I say? The entire 3 hours that you spend in the exam hall, it should be a very, very mechanized, robotic way of writing. Your mind should think and flow should happen, and you should be writing. Not the moment where you can pause and do some creativity, erasing pencil with the scale diagrams, nothing. Okay. So the point is, anticipate the common current affairs and make sure you are in no way less equipped than others. Correct? This is the way how you should be looking forward for the next few days. And yeah, one other point that I would like to talk about is, even when you face test series, keep facing questions where you have 0 points to write, but still write something. Learn that art. Every year in all GS papers, there will be at least one question where you have 0 points to write, but still you have to write something. Okay, why you get 3 marks there? If for a 15-mark answer, even 3 marks is a big luxury then. Okay, how? Let's take the case of this particular question itself. From the resolution, break question. If you feel that it's so challenging, break down. Okay, there's a comma here. First, let me understand the first sentence. From the resolution is what? Sorting it out of contentious issues regarding distribution of legislative powers, contentious issues, problematic areas regarding distribution of legislative powers. Are you able to broadly understand, oh, this is about the 7th schedule? Who can make laws on what matters? There seems to be some contentious issues. And when it gets resolved, who resolves it? The courts. So basically, they're asking for how has the Supreme Court resolved the dispute? Yes, you may not know the case laws, but still, it doesn't have to stop you from starting an answer. Why don't you simply write about, in a federation, conflicts are inevitable? Correct? Because there are two governments, and functions cannot be clearly earmarked. Though seventh schedule, we find overlapping nature of functions. Correct? Waterways, highway, roadways, minerals, land, all these functions fall in multiple areas. So definitely there comes a question of who can make laws on what matters. If you write this, with 3 or 4 sentences, neatly you're finishing. Can I say, see, the trick of these kind of questions, the examiner can feel, he may get this opinion that you have not written the right answer, but at the same time, he cannot reject it as a wrong answer. Correct? He knows that it is not right, but he knows it is relevant. That relevance itself will give you some marks. Okay, and think, see, and even to think of the relevant direction, reading these kind of material again becomes important. Even if you have read MP Jain, it is a remote possibility that you can remember all the case laws and everything until you have specifically made a note of it and revised it periodically again. But at least reading MP Jain will give you this idea that in federations, wherever there is conflict, whether it's USA, is the center strong or state strong? States. That's how we have been learning from Lakshmikant. Correct? In theory, that's correct. Because US constitution makers have ensured that the federal government is given minimal set of functions, maximum functions are kept in the hands of the states. But in the real practice, that is not the case. Even in real practice, the American judiciary has evolved the understanding of federalism in such a way an upper hand has always been given in different instances to the central government. That is how the center's hand has got strengthened in US. In fact, when you go by the actual American constitution, the American president, if he signs any international agreement, it must be ratified by the Senate. Senate represents the states. Until then, it has no validity. But the American court has interpreted in such a way that the Senate ratification does not even require. Otherwise, America could not have become a global superpower by spearheading leadership in various global covenants and agreements. Are you able to follow? Right? So this is an idea that you could have picked up from MPJ. So that idea would have given you a sense of what is the meaning of this word federal supremacy. Correct? And that can help you tackle this answer in a much better, decent way, because most people, normally UPSC aspirants could have come across this word harmonious construction, right? Two provisions clash, both should be balanced. One should not be completely left thrown out. There should be an attempt by the courts to balance the existence of both the provisions. Yes, highways, it's there in union list as well as in state list. But the courts would have interpreted in different case laws so as to make sure that both the governments are still allowed to retain their powers of lawmaking over these areas. Some random, at least you can understand what is the meaning of harmonious construction. Just play around with the concept and fill in something. You don't need to mention the case laws. Okay, that practice, that is also again, a lot of practice only will give you that capacity to handle these kind of questions. This is also something cannot come directly on the examination form. So face these kind of questions where you really don't have anything, still somehow make an answer, bring it to the faculty, get a positive accreditation. Oh yeah, you have managed it well. That feel will keep your confidence spirits up. So there is nothing that I cannot manage in the mains. You know, when you get that feel, automatically facing these questions will not daunt you, will not trouble you in the real mains. Because I can give you, I have a good answer in my memory for this. Okay, giving you that is of no use. It's not going to teach you anything. But teaching, telling you, you still can manage to write something. And one thing I have noticed is, all the difficult questions of UPSC are 10 markers, not 15. All these questions where you cannot even take your answer forward. UPSC also knows that. Let's not punish the aspirants very hard by asking them to write for 2.5 pages for a content for which content they would not be having at all. UPSC is very careful. All the tricky questions year after year, I'm able to spot they're all 10 markers and not the 15 markers. And it is also a possibility that will be the very first question in the examination. Okay, so you may imagine when you see the first question in the question paper, the greatest success of judicial activism has been the constitutionalization of environmental issues. Illustrate with case laws. First of all, you don't have case laws. Second, all you know is the faculty in the polity class has told Article 21 includes right to clean environment. Just with that, can you expand more and more and more and more? And your mind will also question you. Why do you have to spoil the impression on the minds of the examiner by first question itself writing some nonsensical stuff? Correct? So better you leave it. So your mind will, at the same time, another part of your mind will say, but the faculty had told that everybody writes everything. I should not leave this also. Correct? So there's a lot of dilemma there. And with the dilemma, you start hesitating the next page, spills over there. Okay, so that is why learn to manage. Managing means writing relevant, if not the right content, so that you don't end up getting 0 marks and you don't end up angering the examiner by writing wrong stuff. Correct? You don't need the highest marks in these questions. You only need better than what the bulk gets. Okay. So focus on improving your skills on these kind of areas. And really, every paper has these kind of questions. In GS paper 1, art and culture last year, the significance of bull and lion. So students were confused, sir. I only know that in this pillar, this was the figurine that exists. What more do I know about bull and lion? Okay, but still I would tell them, associate lion with ferociousness, bull with virility, masculine virality, right? Sorry, masculine strength. Yeah. So right, it's a and also associate with evolving animist practices. Okay, animism is a part of a religious practice where nature worship existed. And see why, if you actually read art and culture, you'll understand how Tantricism evolved. Tantricism is a modified version of Buddhism as it encountered people who were on the fringes of mainstream civilization. So when it went to the tribal areas, it slowly accepted their practices. That is why mother worship, female worship. In Mahayanism, Hinduism, you don't have it. Whereas in Tantra, you have it. Right? Why? Because the tribal practices had a very egalitarian religious practice. Mother goddess worship was an essential part of all tribal practice. So when Buddhism went to the northeast part of India, where the mainstream religious group of people did not exist, so the local animist practices started getting accepted. Correct? In Tantricism, Buddhism, you'll find a lot of ferocious lions and standing and all that. Not in Mahayana and Hinayana and all, you'll not find. Correct? So that is, you can actually link all that and you can write something that is relevant. Okay, don't feel that, sir, what will I do with these kind of questions? I'm very sure you cannot read and you cannot get these kind of answers right. Okay, or when you're preparing itself, you should have prepared one level depth more, simply not confining with NCRT. Instead, looking at the statues, reading some blogs, good blogs on what, if you, for example, Mahabalipuram cave shore temples, right? Simply reading from NCRT, very small information is given, but there is too much of Mahabharata association which is there in the shore temple. Maybe if you can read some art historians' blogs or any random travelogues also, if you read the story behind that Mahabharata's depiction. God, I'm not able to remember that Saint Vashishta, four saints will be there. Okay, so many events will be depicted. So somebody who has simply read another 10 more minutes, if they would have spent and read something more on shore temple of Mahabalipuram, would be able to write something more meaningful than a very basic reading of NCRTs. Either you should have done it when you prepare itself, or otherwise don't be timid. Just go about it. Write things. The examiner write things in such a way that the examiner gets fooled. Okay, gets fooled in the sense you are just, I mean, it shows your initiative taking attitude, right? You're not cowering behind the problem. You're not running away from the problem, but still you're attempting something, will be appreciated. Okay, if only it doesn't irritate the examiner. You cannot write some nonsense there, something relevant. There is nothing wrong in associating lion with ferociousness. Similarly, bull with masculinity. Correct? So you can write something. Okay. The point is, there will always be questions like that, where it is beyond your preparation, where it is beyond your anticipation. One question per paper at least. Sometimes it could even be 2 questions. Okay, art and culture is that one area which I feel there is a scope in first paper, because every other paper, other area, modern India and all, you would have read so many things from Spectrum, Bipin Chandra, NCRTs and all that. Okay, but art and culture, unless you are truly interested in very artistic and cultural, it's not possible to be having in-depth knowledge, right? Whereas geography, you will be familiar with the concepts, signs and ideas, something you will be able to write. But art and culture has this problem. Similarly, in paper 2, polity and governance has this problem. The most easiest questions you will find from international relations, right? Very, very predictable, very contemporary, no struggle at all. Almost everybody will write good answers. So how can you maximize your marks there? Make sure you read the compilations. Compilations will have specific points, more points. So for international relations, the secret to get more marks is more number of points. Okay, why? Because everybody will try to write as many points as possible. Okay, because it's such an easy area. So there you make sure you write the maximum number of points as well. Okay. Yeah. So this is it. Daily challenge, write 2 questions daily for sure. Keeps you in the writing framework. But think for 10 questions at least every day. And every weekend, 20 question full test compulsory to be attempted. Okay. As I told you, the purpose of test is improving your confidence, improving your speed, making yourself put into the routine of writing for 3 hours continuously. Because imagine the real mains. Every day, morning 3 hours, afternoon 3 hours, morning 3 hours, afternoon 3 hours. Lot of stamina, continuous stamina has to be there. That also comes with writing of these tests. Okay. You're basically building your physique also because of writing this test. Okay. Physical strength, mental strength, all that develops. Here I have written 2 plus 2 answers. 2 is from GS and the other 2 is from your optionals. Okay. That's another area of focus. In fact, I would say if you are pretty decent with GS, better you spend your entire time only on optionals. Optionals will get you much larger range of marks than all the GS combined together. Okay, among all the candidates this year who have cracked, who have failed, there isn't great range of marks in the GS papers as such. But the papers that have really created a lot of range, swinging the outcomes in the favor of those who cracked, was optionals, ethics, essay. Essay for such a, it has a large, what do I say, excess weightage compared to the previous years. This year, essay paper had played a great role in deciding the outcomes. Okay, lowest marks this year has gone to 60 marks, 65 in essay paper. Highest mark as usual, 140, 145 plus. Okay, so look at the 80 marks range that is capable in essay paper. Even those who have cracked, I have seen people, lot of people, 200 ranks, essay score is 85, 92. Okay, that earlier used to be very difficult, but now that is also becoming a possibility. People are scoring very low marks to less than 100, even among the top rankers. Okay, so focus on essay. Similarly, focus on optional. Optional, remember that you can be very superficial in GS in some areas, but you should be quite good at an optional in almost every area. The reason is the kind of question that are asked, 3 questions will be clubbed together now. Second question, A, B, C. 3 areas will be asked, right? So whether you choose that set of questions, okay, you should know all the areas properly. Even if one area is not so good, it's not good, I would say, right? So better you strengthen your optionals. Almost every area you make sure. And the easiest thing to do with optional is prepare for previous year's questions, for 10 to 15 years of previous year's questions. Make sure you have a ready-made answers for all those questions. If you have that, 50% of your optional is already covered. 50% of every optional questions will repeat. GS, you will not have repetitions. Okay, but optional ditto, same question also will repeat. Right? So 50% of the questions you can actually manage if you have already managed 10 to 15 years of your previous year's question paper. But the remaining part, keep on strengthening, keep on strengthening. So effectively speaking, see, you would have heard of aspirants saying, no, I have studied for 14 hours a day. It's all real, true, true. Okay, not throughout, but in this 3 months. Okay, because I have also studied only for this 3 months. Because it is so, and I don't even think I strained in studying for 14, 15 hours this 3 months, because you're running out of time. Every day you only have a limited amount of time. In that day, newspaper preparation, maybe 1 hour you can do every day. Okay, but remaining time entirely optional. If you take 1 unit to properly study in detail, will take you at least a week. Okay, so that is why even if you spend 8 to 7 to 8 hours every day, it will take you a week for 1 unit to be perfectly completed, notes made, previous year's questions thought about and answers attempted, right? So you're running against time. That is why I would desist you from writing too much tests also. Writing too much tests will leave you less time to think for new areas. Okay, this examination is also about reading something, introspecting and thinking about what you have read as well. You need time for that process. Reading and simply writing will leave you no time for introspection, for course correction, correct? So that is why have time for that introspection process, and that is why limit your writing to not more than 4 answers per thing. 2 questions on GS, 2 questions equal weightage for optional, right? And anyway, weekly, one day, Saturday, you can spend for your optional test. Sunday, you can spend for your GS test. So effectively, it only leaves you with 5 days of preparation. 5 days of preparation where you have 14 to 15 hours of preparation time every day. So allotted 50% for optionals and GS. So within 7 hours every day, what can you do for this entire GS? That is the strategy. What can you do? Only focus on areas where you're completely blank, where you don't know anything, and where UPSC's questions are also very tricky, strange. Focus on those areas. For familiar areas, simply attend test and read the answer key. That knowledge itself is sufficient. Okay. So keep doing all this. I told you this, no? Just write hints. Write detailed answer for 2 questions. One 10 mark, one 15 mark. But for another 8 more questions, think of them. That is very useful for your exam. Now coming to another important point. Post-test, there's a lot of work to be done. First of all, for all those who are connected online also, there's an advice that I would like to give you. When you get your feedback, make sure you get the right feedback. Okay, we will ensure we give you the right feedback. So from some other place, ensure you get the right feedback. Why I say this is, I see a lot of answer sheets, which is corrected based on some template. Okay, you can find it out yourself. Take an answer sheet and you see a answer sheet where every line is ticked, hundreds of tick mark in one single page. Please don't give that paper to him again for correction. Okay. These are all some templates corrections that you can come across. Why? Because the work has been outsourced to a lot of aspirants who have no experience with mains. Do you know that people who have not cleared prelims are involved in answer correction? Do you know that? That's the truth in many places. What I'm trying to say is, I mean, we don't do that. This is just an advice for those who are connected online. Get the feedback in the right manner. Don't get feedback just because somebody writes so many things in red in your paper doesn't mean the correct feedback is given. Okay, they are just justifying their existence. Okay, and it's so easy when you give vague opinions as feedback. Okay, fair idea. Okay, elaborate more. Okay, create innovations, present in a structured manner. You will feel okay, good feedback. But what does it mean? Present in a structured manner, right? And whenever a feedback says add these 4 more points, don't take the feedback too serious. Not about more and more point addition, which actually matters to UPSC, because everybody is going to struggle for points in the real examination. But the right feedback, I'll tell you what it should have is, the right feedback should convey to the aspirant whether his answer is relevant to the question or not. Or if at all irrelevance is there, which part is actually irrelevant? How could this irrelevance been avoided? How the same point could have been made more relevant? What is a different other way of presenting this idea? Correct? Observe for such feedbacks. Go for macro feedbacks. Macro feedbacks would be in the nature of what more areas you need strengthening. Is it in terms of content, or is it in terms of prioritizing your ideas, structuring your ideas? Okay, those are macro ideas. Don't go for the line by line correction. Oh, this line is wrong. Second line, this is wrong. Third line, this is wrong. Doesn't matter. The examiner there in the real exam, he'll not even look at your paper properly. Half sleepy state, sleepy state, he may look at it. Broadly, if he feels that paper reading is easy for him, he'll give you good marks. Okay, it's all human fact. He's also a human being. He's tired of seeing the same points again and again. So whatever beautiful points you write there, not going to impress him greatly. But how you have written, have you made his life easy or not, decides to a great deal in how much marks you will get. So learn that art of easy and effective communication. Write neat, write in appropriate spacing. What is appropriate spacing? One line should not have more than 6 words, and a single page should not have more than 16 to 17 lines. This is a thumb rule of writing. If you're violating this rule, it means either your answer is too spaced out, which will give a feel to the examiner that this guy doesn't have anything to write. That is why so much of gap between line and words. That is also a negative feel. Whereas if it is too cramped, you're writing 150 words per page, it will become cramped. Then that also becomes irritating for the examiner to read. He has to use magnifying glass and read what have you written. Okay, all these are difficult. That is why the optimum spacing, which is easy for the examiner to read and which gives a sense of standardization for the entire 50 pages, is 6 words per line, not more than 16 to 17 lines per page in a UPSC margin sheet. Okay, maintain that with every test that you write, every day you write at your home also, you try to maintain this word limit. Okay. So once you get the feedback, observe the macro feedback. You yourself should be the best person to judge your answers. Okay, you should know, okay, this was the demand of the question. Have I done justice to the answer? And if the faculty, if the person who's correcting your answer sheet is going to point out the grammatical mistakes, that's a godsend opportunity for you. Usually, those who are evaluating themselves will not know the right grammar to write the answers. But if somebody is pointing it out to you, good, make course corrections immediately, start doing it. Bad grammar will, if not affecting you in GS, it will definitely affect you in essay and ethics. Essay is completely about good writing skills with good language skills. So take that kind of advice properly, more than the feedback where they say you should have written these 4 points. There is no such thing as a one correct answer for mains answers. Everybody will write their own favorite points, their own points. It's all about whether you have justified and convinced the person who's reading enough that all part of the question has been addressed and the demand has been taken care of. That is more important. The feel that you give is important than the knowledge that you have transmitted to the examiner in every line of yours. Okay. So once you have got the feedback, after that also you can learn a lot by observing toppers' answers, observing best answers of others. Okay, I'll show you. 2 answer sheets. This is a student of last year who was writing test with us. She has cleared, I don't know her rank, 300 something. This is a guy who I thought will get into the top 50 ranks, but who did not make it to the rank list. Though exceptionally good scores in GS and optionals and everything, interview was only 137 or something. Okay, only because of that he was pushed out. I was expecting he was the best writer among all. That is why I had taken his picture and brought it. This was a question about, do you think compulsory voting should be implemented in India? Examine the efforts of other countries in implementing compulsory voting. Okay. This person who has made to the rank list, she herself has not written a very specific answer like how this guy had written, but this guy has already prepared on those lines where he can bring specific examples. In Australia, what is the work? What efforts have been taken to enforce compulsory voting? In Peru, Uruguay, South American nations. In fact, and look at this handwriting. And this is a consistent quality he will maintain for entire 50 pages. This is the best writing, I would say. Okay, his optional score, PubAd is his optional. Very good score in PubAd. Okay, so everything worked well except for personality test. Just by 1 mark or 2 marks, he has missed the rank list. Okay, so very impressive. I used to even feel surprised. Where is this guy preparing all this from? Because I thought when I chose this question, I thought I have done my own research and taken. Nobody would have done it. But then I feel outsmarted by him in the sense. So he's proving that you think you can only take these points. I have already prepared. Such a really good mind. We will clear one day. Who knows? This attempt. Last time was a second attempt. The third. But anyway, but she has cleared. She has not written all these specific points and all. This is for a different answer. Okay, what I want to show to you here is this guy's attention to detail, attention to specifics, how he writes. Have a look at these kind of answer sheets. You should feel, why am I not able to write like this? Let me talk to him. Let me find out where is he writing this from. Okay, so at least that will give you a glimpse of what all he is reading and what all efforts he is making. So it only takes 2 days. And you can, if you only know that this guy has read from that book, you can immediately go to that book, read all the essential broad ideas. That is sufficient. That will equip you much better. What you can learn from her is how to write good essays. Right? 2 paragraphs, not more than 2 paragraphs per page. When you write more than 2 paragraphs per page for essay, it gives a feel that you have been superficial in your essay. GS, you can write it like these points because you have to bring in so much information within 1.5 pages. But essay, one small quote, you have to diversify it for 10 pages. So essay, it's not about shallowness. Here you can only write 1 point and leave it and move to the next idea altogether. But essay is like you establish an idea, you argue it, you counter argue it. So that work requires sufficient number of sentences, maybe 5 or 6 sentences. And when you write 5 or 6 sentences, when you package them together, it will at least be for half page. Correct? So that is why don't keep your essay shallow by writing more number of paragraphs per page, short paragraphs. No. So this is something which I really liked about her. Two paragraphs per page. Very nice subheadings she used to give. Right underlining. That is also something that we can learn from her. Okay. So this is the post-test analysis that you should do. You should find out how better people than you write. Okay, that will give us something to learn. Definitely, this is what will teach you more than the feedback that you receive. If the feedback is good and proper, it's well and good. But otherwise, also focus on this also. Okay, how similar test, similarly placed people, how do they write? How are they able to get 1 mark more than me? Just observe for that. And inculcate if you find anything is valuable. I'm not saying it's just because somebody has drawn a diagram, you have to replicate that again. No, but some unique point. Okay, so this guy has written it. So this is my competitor. If he is reading it, why did I miss out on reading? That sense should come. That is the purpose of post-test comparisons. Okay, and as I told you, take the answer key, look for value additions, extract ideas. 2019 batch student of Shankar, Madan, he gave his first attempt in 2021. First attempt he cleared. Okay, after clearing, he was there, and I was listening to his speech. This is the only thing that he said. I didn't read any books. All I did was any books for revision. Just before the examination, I took all the test papers that I have written. I just took hold of the answer keys from the entire previous night. I was just going through them, right? Because there's so much of data, information relevant to that question, which you will be able to remember in the last minute. Okay, and that will be useful for you in the examination. Right? That is one way of making use of your answer key. Okay, whatever, how, yeah, answer keys are Google searched, no doubt about it, but they give you some points which you were not able to write. Okay, yes, spontaneity is what is going to be helpful in the real exam, but it's not a harm to have 2-3 points more that you can learn from the answer keys. Okay, after taking the test, when you see the answer key, the points that you did not bring in your answer, you will be able to remember it far better. If you simply were to take that answer key and if you read it, it doesn't retain. But after writing a test where you have failed to bring in multiple points, now when you see the more points, points will forever remember. Okay, something to be done. Okay, so whatever feedback you get, whatever analysis you have done in the last test, introspect, keep repeating it for the next 1 week in terms of a daily writing practice, in terms of the next weekly text, improvise. Okay, repeat it, keep improvising it. Okay, over the next 3 months, 100 days, automatically improvement will. Okay, so frankly speaking, good writing skills will matter to you. Grammar, articulation, your figures of speech that you bring in your answer, all that is more useful for your essay than your GS. I have seen people with not so good English skills also making it to the service because of good score in GS, because of the points that they have. So work on your relative strength. For those who are online, who are going to attempt your mains, you cannot simply improve your writing skill in the next couple of days. Tremendous, drastic improvement is not possible. So the suggestion that I can give you is, if you feel your writing skill is not so good, somehow only focus on essay so that you don't end up getting less than 100 marks. Manage it decently to get 110 to 120. GS, your issues in writing will not affect you very badly. Make sure you are able to compensate for all this weakness in your optional paper. Okay, optional, if you can get some 280, 290 marks, the weakness in good writing in terms of essay will get overcome. Okay, GS is, I don't really feel it has too much to do with good English skills or anything. Right? Preparation, familiarity with all the questions that could probably be asked. If you're able to present decent ideas with proper word limit, good introduction, conclusion, sufficient. Yes, people with poor writing skills will get affected in the essay, but try to compensate for that by focusing on optional papers. Okay, not everybody is good in everything. I'm sure people who would be making it to mains will know that you don't have to be really good at every area to go to mains. 2-3 areas if you're really strong at, other areas you play defensive so that you don't drastically get pulled down, sufficient enough to crack prelims. Correct? Similarly for mains, work on your strengths, strengthen your strengths more. 100 days is not a time where your weaknesses can be completely be made strong. But for those who do not clear prelims, yes, this is a time to complete transformation. Okay, so this is a very nice time that you have. What they don't have. right? Who knows? Out of 10,000 who writes mains, only 2,000, 2,500 is going to be called to the last stage. Even there, 7,500 are going to be dropped behind, correct? So what comfort, luxury that they don't have, you have. For such people also, I have some advices which you can think about. Okay, I'll just come to that. Let me finish this essay and ethics. Okay. Papers which are decisive. Okay. GS, as I said, if we can replicate 21 to 60 questions directly, another 9 questions indirectly at least, 50% of GS papers, every aspirant would have been really of the same level. Not much difference. Okay. But this is the area where familiarity or being used to the questions alone is not going to help. Okay. GS papers, no, 15 marks would be the maximum range between last marks and the highest marks, 15 to 20 marks, not more than that. But ethics paper, you will have people in the rank list with 80, 85. Similarly, you'll have people in the rank list with 130, 130. One paper ethics can create that range. Okay. Similarly, as I said, essay also can create that range. Okay. What can you do for ethics paper first? Ethics, you have multiple areas in that. You have philosophy related areas, psychology related, public administration related. This entire psychology and public administration related areas can be completed in 1 week. Okay. Because you're only touching the surface of public administration concepts like what is integrity, okay, need for openness and transparency in government. Okay, just 1 page of content if you have, you're done with that particular area. So within 1 week, you can finish your preparation for this entire psychology and public administration areas. In psychology related areas, you have only 2 topics. One is attitude, structure, formation, contents, process of attitude change. That is one topic. The other one is regarding emotional intelligence. Okay. So any coaching material or one standard book you find in the market, DK Balaji's book on ethics, or your own coaching material, wherever, whichever center you have studied, that material is sufficient to cover the topics on psychology and public administration, theoretical parts. Okay. Once you're done with that, slowly study, but regularly study the philosophical aspects of ethics. Okay. Where ideas about values, conscience, conflict between law and conscience, conflict between individual and a society, those things have to be slowly ingested, slowly linked to our daily life. Examples have to be sought from our real life. Okay, it is a lot of mental process which have to happen in terms of philosophical areas. So take those areas a bit slow. Okay, do not think that one day I will sit and read philosophy and that is not how it works. Okay, and a lot of preparation for ethics comes by one round of preparation of philosophical topics, concepts, you do it. Every word, which has been asked in previous years, define conscience. Conscience. How was conscience helpful for individuals in daily lives? These are how questions are asked. Okay. Ethics paper, previous 10 years question papers, those philosophical areas, you can prepare answers for all these questions. Almost the next year's paper can be managed with that preparation. Because conscience is one topic. If you have understood the definition of it, you can write 3-4 sentences properly. How is application of conscience, if you know, another 3-4 sentences. Like that, whatever question has been asked about conscience in the previous years, if you can make 2 to 3 page or 4 page of content yourself, right? Just see, the simple formula is what has been asked in the previous years, get answers prepared on your own. Don't simply read some question answer bank given to you, this is the answer, let me read that, that's a shortcut. My point of asking you to prepare an answer for previous year question is in the process of finding answers, you will end up reading at least 10 times more. You may only write for 4 pages, but you would actually read another 40 pages of content. That will all be somewhere there in your mind. Okay, that will all come to your help in this examination. Okay, there is no need for ethics paper will not be unpredictable. Everybody will know everything to write, but just that they will not know how well to write compared to others. Okay, so that is why all India rank toppers answer sheets, if you have on ethics paper alone, Okay, it'll all be there on the internet. We also have a lot of copies of previous year's toppers, ethics paper and all that. Just get that, observe. Okay, how have they written? Have they written it? Have they broken every idea into some 5, 6 points and have they written it? And how do they make sure every point feels to the examiner different from the previous point? Because the biggest problem of ethics, no, whatever you write will feel like everything is the same. So, right, 3 answers you write and see, you will feel almost you're writing the same ideas again and again for all the 6 pages. That feel should not be there for the examiner. Okay, that only needs some specific preparation, different examples to be prepared. That can happen by observing how toppers are able to, right? They'll be able to clearly differentiate nicely between integrity and probity. Whereas when I ask you to write now, the definition that you will give mostly will be the same for both integrity and probity, right? Like that, definitional preparation, very specifics of ideas of every word in ethics paper must be prepared separately. Okay, you do that. Prepare for previous year's question paper on philosophical terms, good enough preparation. Psychology, public administration, nothing, any standard book you take, prepare it. Okay, case studies will only come by writing it. And so many toppers have posted so many templates of approaching case studies. You can use your own approach, or it could be a borrowed approach. Anything is fine. Read Anudeep Durashetty's blog on approaching case studies. So I felt his case study approach helps in a lot of diversification. Right, that stakeholder approach, he says, wherever you're put into, you think of every possible scenario from the perspective of the citizens, from my family, from my own personal self perspective, from my superior perspective, from politicians' perspective, right? When you're able to bring in all that, the answer feels that you have thought on so many angles and dimensions. It feels diversified. Okay, so for case studies, just his blog and looking at toppers' answer sheets, how are they writing? Case study, simply common sense, nothing more than that. Common sense tempered with rational actions, tempered with realistic actions. Do not take ideal stand, because most of the case studies, no, the immediate stand that you can take is, I will not do this action. Everybody can say that. If there's a wrong course of action, everybody will say, I will not do that action. But why do you say that you would not take an action? The more and more number of justifications you give, the more your answer becomes acceptable. It is easy to say that it is against law, I will not do it. But if that is the case, a robot can also do the work. Written law, yes or no. No means no action. Why would they want a human being there? The human being is there so that wherever there is an open-endedness, wherever there is a discretion to bend the law, for what purpose are you going to bend the law? It is to guide you. For that, they have kept this paper called ethics. If it is to be simply following the law, then you don't need to even be there. Correct? Wherever there are gray areas where you have to bend the law, what is the justification and reason why you would say, yes, I would do it, why you would say you would not do it. Correct? So that comes when you start observing previous year's toppers' answer sheets. So when we evaluate also, we will also show you the answer sheets. So that is also part of a test series, in the sense, after feedback is given to you, if you go for personal feedback, you can just come, you can meet me here. Best answers will be shown to you so that you can inculcate something from them. Your answers, if it is best, will also be shown to others also, right? We will not show you the entire answer sheet as such, but it's just that representation for you to get an idea of what better to be done in improving your own writing. Because of course, all your points are original, unique. So we would not want to share all your hard work, give it as a template for others. That is not something that we'll do, but we'll definitely share patterns, what makes an answer better than yours, right? So that's all. This is what I have written. And yeah, so now you guys are fortunate to have this artificial intelligence tools, ChatGPT, Bard, and all. I would tell you, sometimes I feel the previous year's questions that I have framed and given to the student, those questions I was simply testing with Bard. Okay, I feel the answers that Bard generates is better than my own answer. Okay, it is ensuring every answer is relevant with current case laws, very beautiful structure. And for every essay quote, every ethics quote that you come across in your practice test, if you feel that you're unable to think beyond a certain dimension, if you feel that simplicity is ultimate sophistication, this is previous question, you're not able to go beyond certain extent, immediately search. It gives you directions, it gives you interesting examples also, because it is a repository, it is a compilation of every example that is suitable in this scenario, correct? So earlier, what aspirants used to do is they used to read on their own and collect their own anecdotes, incidents, and examples. Now that work is simplified because of these tools. All you need is just type the code. New examples you will get. Just by reading that story, it will be there in your mind. You will be able to use that in your real essay paper. Correct? So for quotes, learn to approach on your own, but don't think that simply taking the quotes, putting it on ChatGPT, finding and reading the answer is going to help you. The issue is your initiative. As soon as the quote is given, you tend to come up with an answer. If you're not able to go beyond the third page and fourth page, now search it on these tools. You get some more directions to think. Based on that, now you can start thinking again, right? Thoughts again and again, linking new thoughts with the already existing thoughts is how you prepare for essays in a better way. Because see, if it is a one complete session on essay, then my approach will be very different. You have to be a good reader. You have to read these books, read magazines, supplement that comes with Hindu paper, equip yourself slowly, read others' life experiences. That is the ultimate way of preparing for ethics paper. Sorry, ethics as well as essay. But in 100 days gap, even to read the basic books, there is no time. Where is the point of going and reading self-help books and philosophy books and all that? Not going to happen, right? So the approach is different. Approach now is previous year's questions, essay questions. That will give you new ideas, which probably may become the content for next year's questionnaire, right? Thinking, writing, evaluating, challenging yourself is more important. Challenging, writing, comparing yours with others, improving based on that. Has to keep on going for the next 100 days. All right. So that's all. This is about essay and ethics. Okay. Now coming to those who will not be able to clear prelims. Okay. I'll tell you what you have to start from now is start making notes. Okay, what do I mean by notes? I also have a student's note also, which I'll share it with you so that you get an idea about what do I mean by notes. So this is regarding one of the topic. Okay, I asked the student, read the proposed law commission's report on electoral reforms, prepare your own notes for chapter 4 of that topic. Chapter 4 is regarding campaign financing in elections. Okay, why don't you make your own notes? Okay, so she has made her own notes. I'll just show you so that you get an idea. You can make it with pen and paper or in a digital format. The choice is yours. But ultimately, everybody who clears this exam would have made notes for every topic like this. Okay. So deciphering the campaign financing, this is on an editorial. So I just asked her, read the editorial, read that topic also from Law Commission's report, make your own notes. So she has done why it is it news and all that. Beyond that, she has on and she has taken notes from the document on different issues as well. So basically, it's a note for 3 to 6 pages. Okay. This kind of original note making is necessary. That's the point. Okay, like this for every topic. This is just notes made for one area of elections topic. This is not the entire notes for elections as a topic. Just for financing related issues of elections, this is the note. Similarly, criminalization, make your own notes. Political parties issues, make your own notes. Model code issues, make your own notes. It will take you at least 2 to 3 days to comfortably, confidently, completely cover all areas of just one topic on elections. But the payoff, understand the payoff. 3 days of effort you put, you get some 20-25 pages of notes. And from the 25 pages of notes, definitely there's going to be one question on your mains. Correct? This is what you should do for every topic in your GS2, GS3. For GS1, society alone, you make this preparation. Whereas for history and geography, you do not have to make this preparation. History and geography, you only have to read the books. Why do you have to make notes separately? Waste of time. Everything is static. But for society, you make these notes. GS2, all areas make these notes. GS3, all areas make notes. GS4, all areas. Okay. Everybody who has prepared notes in this next 6 months will definitely be able to clear the next mains. Right? So this is a good time. In fact, I would say that after I gave my first attempt, somehow I think my first attempt I was able to clear with a bit of luck as well. Okay, some broad preparation I did and was able to crack. But as soon as the mains is over, within the next 5 days, I decided that there is so much of gaps in my preparation. Sat and worked from the month of September till December, January. I was only strengthening optional. Okay, that guarantees us another success, right? So this is a very crucial time. But aspirants tend to be mistaken that this is once loss in prelims, again focus on prelims. Very bad. Okay, the preparation should only be for mains, and prelims preparation should be an integrated part of that, where you read newspaper regularly, where you browse about newspaper on everything that you're curious and not clear about. That way you can clear prelims automatically. And the advantage of preparing for mains is you get a lot of ideas which will be helpful for you in differentiating a prelims answer well. For example, this year there was a question asked regarding due process of law, right? Very tricky. Principle of natural justice also appears to be right. Fair application of law also appears to be correct. I would go with fair application of law. Maybe some of you might even go with principle of natural justice. But when you read Article 21 elaborately for mains, you will get an idea about this topic. That will help you. Okay, in my opinion, from my reading, I was able to understand fair application of law as the immediate answer. Okay. So I know many keys have given principle of natural justice, and you would also want a principle of natural justice. But I would disagree with that. But anyway, the point I'm trying to say is a question like this, or a question where the primary purpose of constitution is, right? Limitations on the government. That is this year's prelims. Correct? Comes from the preparation of an idea called as constitutionalism. Constitutionalism means limiting the powers of the government. Okay, how does the Constitution of India ensures constitutionalism? Okay, so you prepare for mains, you become very clear that the most important purpose of the Constitution is to ensure one organ does not become super powerful. Correct? So like that, many areas, and Gandhian thought was asked, like 2 years back, the similarity between Gandhian and Karl Marx thought. Right? You can actually prepare it very well if you are prepared for the local self-government part of your mains preparation. But Lakshmikant doesn't have any of this answer. But if you prepare for mains, you will understand that there is a term called as principle of subsidiarity. Okay, what is the principle of subsidiarity? If a work can be done at lower levels of the government, it must be done at the lower levels of the government. Right? Army, can panchayats take out that work? They cannot execute it. So it has to be done at the higher level. But animal husbandry can be done by panchayats, lower levels. So it should be done only at that level. That is Gandhi's opinion. That is why Gandhi wanted power to be vested at the lower levels. Okay, he was a follower of this principle of subsidiarity. So anyway, the idea is when you read more for your mains preparation or for the topics indicated, you gain a lot of ideas which will be useful for you some way or the other in your films. Okay, so that way also mains preparation will be helpful. And people who do not do proper preparation in this period of time, they will feel themselves getting trapped in the regular cycle. What is the regular cycle? Every prelims, 2-3 prelims you will fail. Let's say third prelims or fourth prelims you clear. At that time when you go, mains topics also you're not clear. You will keep preparing something for the next 3-4 months. They go right mains. Lack of clarity, lack of perfection, you will not clear mains. By the time the mains results are out, once again, you will start getting into the trap of prelims, test series and everything. A self-defeating trap. You will not be able to come out of it at all. The only reason is because you have wasted the 6 months without completing your mains preparation. Only when you complete this, one mains that you give will be a guaranteed success for you go to the next phase. Otherwise, what happens is, after prelims, once again 3 months. 3 months for mains, topic coverage. Okay, only the few areas you'll be able to cover. But what about every area coverage? Right? So that is why use this time in the right manner. Okay. So that's why I say here, ensure slow and steady buildup of notes. Take it slow. You guys should not join a weekly test series. You should only join a fortnightly test series, which also has the next fortnight as an essay test also, so that there is at least 1 more month, 3 weeks or 4 weeks gap before the next GS topic can be prepared and you can go and write the next test. Having the same test series every week is self-defeating again. You will not be able to prepare even for a single topic properly. Maximum 2 topics, 2 bullet points you'll be able to prepare. Then what is the point of appearing in a full test then? No point. So go for a test series which is well spaced out. 2 weeks once, 3 weeks once, if you have a test, go for that. Okay. Only then you can, at least once you experience this process of what is this dedicated, elaborate note-making process. What is this? Once you should experience it. In fact, I would even say, once if you have done this process completely, then you can even think of taking alternative career also. If you're not able to have success in this exam, you can even go for some other career and parallelly you can prepare because this work has been completed. But if somebody has not completed this work, it's better they focus on alternative career and not focus on this after that. Okay, because you will not get the time again to prepare in the similar manner. Right? This is a very important, crucial phase of this exam because first year of your classes, you're completely in the hurry-burry of the class, daily classes to attend to, daily newspaper to read. So where is the time to make separate notes? So now is the time, make use of it properly. Once you do it for the next 6 months, it will always be beneficial for you in whatever number of attempts you make. Okay. And also, this is a time to slowly, line by line, you can improve your writing practice. Like if your grammar is not good, what can be done? Okay, read some small articles. Okay, read small newspaper articles, write it without seeing. Like that, slowly work your grammar, language skills, and everything. That is all not something that somebody who's going to write mains this year will be able to. Okay, just because you have time. But focus that until the next January or December, don't even think about prelims. Okay, because it's a very natural human feeling. If you don't clear in prelims, your thought is, at least I should guarantee prelims I should clear next time. Okay, that will give you some sense of satisfaction for the efforts that you have put in. But that is not the goal at all. The war has to be won, not one battle. Correct? So don't be bothered about your prelims. Gone is gone. You will anyway clear prelims if you do this next 6 months properly. All right. So choose a test package accordingly. All right. So that's all. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry, what? Cause and clause and cases. Okay, you're asking me if a train, I mean, my poor understanding of Hindi, what I was able to understand is if a train accident like this happens, if they ask you for solutions to prevent this from happening, you're asking me what I should write. Depends on, if it's only a 10 mark answer, only for 1.5 pages you have the space to write. And you have 6 significant steps to be taken. In that case, you will not actually have the space to elaborate on each of. You're not given unlimited space. With the limited space, you have to squeeze in your ideas. So you decide how much of elaboration you can make. So if there are 6 or 7, first of all, I don't know where this is related, not in GS1, not in GS2, not in GS4. In GS3, in science and tech, is there any relationship? I'm not sure. Maybe disaster management, can this be disaster? Could be. Okay, maybe in disaster management, there could be. But yeah, there you can, if at all a question is asked, a 10-mark question, maybe you can simply mention it. Or if it's a 15-mark question, if you have sufficient points, so you're asking me, should you elaborate it or not? Yes, you should if it's a 15-mark answer. You need not if it's a 10-mark answer. If you have the content and you have read for that. Yeah. They don't, yeah. Correct. That's because model answers, we have to justify to the students, we are getting money from you, so we're giving something 30 pages bulk. Same answer, in the sense, space is not there. How will you elaborate? But here we have unlimited space to write an answer. So we copy paste everything and we give it as a model answer. And preparing at the leisure of your office, then preparing with unlimited time in your hand is different. And the person who's facing the examination there, shortage of time, within 10 minutes, the feeling is completely different. So even if he has points, he is not in a position to elaborate. But I'll tell you, let's say you don't have 6 different points to write. You only have 3 points. Then why not elaborate? Fill in the pages. Otherwise, there's a sense the examiner gets that you have not written adequate enough. Okay, more points I will not elaborate. I'll just write the different points. Less points, I'll keep stretching the content. Anything else?
From the 15 markers or the 10?
Equal. I mean, everything is equal.
If the question asks for 10, right? That is the.
Yeah. Okay. Sometimes students ask me, so should I start writing from 15 markers? I'll finish 15 markers, then I'll come to 10 markers and I'll write. Go in the order. Okay. The reason is the first impressions will be created in the first part of your question booklet. And what are there in the first part? 10 markers. Okay. Whereas you put a lot of time writing 15 marks. Finally, the last 45 minutes, you come to 10 markers. You will start writing some nonsense. It will not be as good as the latter part of your answer booklet. And the first impression will not be a good impression. Okay, so go in order. Okay, so if this question is from that understanding that first you will finish the 15 markers, then you will come to 10 markers, I would say that equal importance should be given for every answer. Anything? Yeah. Long term, you mean long term? Read. Okay, yeah, I'm just coming. I'll keep your question, address it next. Can you explain about MOKSHA, which is Shankar is providing? It has 4 test series. Okay. I'll take your question after 2 minutes. Regarding your question regarding essay, a long-term effort includes a lot of transformation on what you do on a daily basis. Do you read? So you should start reading fiction, non-fiction. Not fiction, non-fiction mainly. Okay. Read some very classic books, very standard books, which has a UPSC value in essay. For example, there are good books like Man's Search for Meaning. Okay. That's a very transformational book, will give you a lot of idea about humanity, human being, motivation and all that. Like that, I can give you some 10 list of books. You have to just start reading non-fiction books that has some connect with essays. For that, first study essay paper, analyze what kind of areas are asked in essays. Essays, UPSC asks about human efforts, it asks about determination, it asks about passion, it asks about like what? Yeah, a question was asked. Life is a transformation from human being to being humane, right? So it means it's more about values, virtues, where you are able to overcome your animal instincts of accumulation, materialistic pursuits, right? So it's basically self-help. It's philosophy, spirituality, all combined together. If you are able to read such kind of works constantly, you will be molded in such a way where you can feel that yes, you have read some anecdotes and stories with which you will be able to write some things for this, right? It could be Osho's books, small books, easy to read books, okay, which are there on Amazon. Yeah, that could be helpful. Okay, or it could be Robert Greene's books. Okay, Robert Greene is an author who touches about human psychology and human nature. Almost all his works will be useful for essay paper. Okay, there's a book that he has written, it's called Laws of Human Nature. So when you read that, you will be able to get a lot of examples from history, which will show how human beings, we try to manipulate others, what is the evil consequences of our actions. It's a good book on analyzing human actions and how we can be better persons. I can just go about, there are just so many book lists. If you just walk on the roads of Pusa Road, there are so many bookshops on the roads. Just take one book, the most best-selling book of the recent days. Okay, something on the road, just pick up. And all those books which are there are just like that. Take them, start reading them. That is the first step. Plus, Hindu paper, on Sundays, you get the supplement magazine. Have you read any? You should start reading it. There are a lot of wonderful book reviews that are there, which will have some interesting anecdotes, which will be material for your essay paper. In fact, there are essays written in magazine by readers about their life, about their nostalgic experience of the past. Those reminiscences of their lives will be a good material for your answer in your essay paper. Essay paper is all about being watchful for good content and being keen on collecting them for further use. Okay, It could be even be in the form of movies that you watch. It could be in the form of TED videos that you watch. Anything and everything could be a source of ideas and enrichment for your essay paper. So an exercise that I have given for students where I have taught classes is that every Sunday you take this magazine. Okay. Previous year's question of essay, you take it. From that week's magazine supplement, you read. Now you find whatever you read, try to extract some ideas as answers and try to collect for those previous year's questions. You keep on doing it, you have a database of good incident stories for areas of previous year's questions. Similar kind of question asked next year, you may be able to use it. Okay, that is one way of doing it. Essay, there's no one way of how one book to read and master this. Like for history, if you ask me, I'd suggest Bipin Chandra, read it to become good. Essay is like a long-term transformation. For a short term, the solution that I can give for managing your essay paper in your real examination is ChatGPT. Okay, put in the codes, learn whatever comes out of that, learn how to write essays. That's for short term for the next upcoming meetings. Yeah, definitely. That is the best way to think on abstract ideas. Okay. Yeah, you can do that. Ships don't sink because of water outside them, but because of water inside them. That was the question. So what does it mean? It means that no matter what the negativities are there outside you, until you don't get affected by them, there is no problem. You can give examples, a lot of examples you can give. Even UPSC aspirants' life, every day there are a lot of criticisms, mockery at you. Everybody questions your belief and conviction in your own process. But some people get affected and they quit. Whereas all India rank 1 would have also faced the same criticism. Everybody would have looked at him, you and all, are you capable of cracking? But he proves it because just that he had a thick skin, he was not affected by it. Like that, look at the previous year quotes, connect in whatever creative ways you can connect. Okay. For the same, I can say in 2009, global crisis happened. Too many companies went bankrupt, but companies which had strong accounting financial practices, they did not go bankrupt. Correct? So same negative stimulus, but how two different entities react is based on what core they have and not because of the externality. Correct? This is one other example. Like that, for every quote, keep thinking of examples. Okay, this example thinking comes from all these different sources from where you can collect and think about. So, okay, 4 different types of mains test series. For those who are appearing in this year's mains test series, my suggestion is if you are a fresher, go for this MOKSHA Fresher 23. If you already have an experience in veterans, if you already have experience in mains, go for the veterans. The difference primarily is in freshers, all the tests, at least the first 8 to 10 tests, those tests are 250-mark tests, but they will not cover every topic of every subject. For example, the first test, GS1 test for freshers, you have history, society, geography. That's a syllabus. That's the same syllabus as GS paper 1, but not every topic of history, not every topic of society, not every topic of geography. Whereas for a veteran, that package will have all tests are only full tests, just like a UPSC GS1 full tests. Right? This is the main difference. After a point of time, after the first 10 tests, test series will be common for veterans and freshers. Because after that, both of them will be writing full tests. The first 10 tests alone, there is a difference. For freshers, it is not a complete coverage of every topic of the syllabus sheet. But at the same time, we don't exclude any subject also. All subjects are there, but just that not all topics will be covered for freshers. Okay. And then there's another program, mains annual, I think a long-term plan is also there, right? The long-term plan is basically, it is sectional test. Okay, we don't go for a 3 subjects all put together as like that. Instead, we go for only history. 2 weeks once you have a test. The next 2 weeks henceforth, you will have one full 250-mark test only on society. Like that, we cover theme by theme first, and then we go for structured tests. That is a long-term mains program. And then you have another program which is actually integrated mains cum prelims 2024. Basically, it's an amalgamation of the one which I just recently described. Plus, you'll also have the next year's prelims test series also a part of right? So if you are going to give your exam this year, you should either go for the freshers package or the veterans package of 23. If you're not going to give your mains this year, you should go for a standalone extensive mains program or go for a mains cum prelims integrated program. Or you decide I'll only go for mains program now, prelims test series, I have another choice in my mind, or I'll later give fees and join. It's all your choice. Okay, so this is the difference. In the long-term mains program, we address subject by subject first. We complete it first, and then we go for sectional test. We complete it, then we go for full test. Okay, the brochure that is there on the internet, on the website, as well as the brochure you can get collected from outside, will explain to you the features of different tests. So how are we going to go about with our tests? Today we have an orientation session. Oh, it is supposed to start, no? Sorry. So at 5 now, has it started there? They're waiting. Okay, okay. So right now the orientation will happen for the next week's test. Okay, so we'll give you an idea about what to study, how to study, what kind of questions are asked, subject-wise faculties will discuss with you. After that, we'll be following with the next week's test. Once the test is over, 2:30 to 5 will be the test, 5 to 8 will be the discussion for the. So all the tests will have an orientation. For veterans, you don't have orientation because you are already oriented to last year's mains. For freshers, we will have a orientation session first. Once the orientation is over, you'll get an idea. With that idea, you can read for 1 full week, then come and appear in your tests. Okay. Okay, all right. So make use of your test programs and do your preparation properly for the next couple of months. Okay. All right.